Well, when NBA Hall of Famer, one of the top 50 greatest players to ever play this game, in my opinion, top 15, and when we were planning to do a show, a blockbuster trade was not on the agenda. Yet the Golden State, maybe blockbuster is the wrong word. Maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but the Warriors did make a trade. NBA Hall of Famer Rick Barry and I, we're going to break down what that trade was, whether it's going to make a huge difference. We'll talk about that. It's the Golden Days with Rick Barry.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Woo! Let's go.
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
Welcome to the Golden Days. I am your host for the afternoon, Cyrus Saatsaz, but more importantly, joining me is NBA Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to ever lace him up, Rick Barry. You can follow him on all social media platforms at Rick24Barry. And before we get going, talking about the Warriors, talking about the blockbuster trade that brought Dennis Schröder on board, let's first get some love real fast to Bet Online, the official sponsor of Golden Days. They continue to be the most trusted betting platform in the world and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and so much more. Head to BetOnline today, and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE, it's the name of the network, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. And again, you can follow Rick Barry on all social media platforms. It doesn't matter what the platform is. The handle's the same. It's Rick24 Barry, 24, your playing number, sir, that you emulated from your childhood sports hero, Willie Mays. Great to see you, sir. How are you doing? And your immediate reaction to the Golden State Warriors trading DeAnthony Melton and 3 second-round picks to the Brooklyn Nets for Dennis Schröder, and they get a second-round pick back. So they sent out 2 second-round picks, essentially, is what the deal was for. Your reaction, and how are you doing, sir? Great to see you.
Well, I'm doing quite well. I hope everybody else is getting ready for the holidays, whatever you're celebrating. And there's a lot of holidays going on right now. And it's, well, like they say, it's a festive, wonderful time of the year. Hopefully that's the case. You know, all the songs point that way. But there's a lot of people out there suffering. So God bless them, and whatever you can do to help them out, please do so.
Yeah.
As far as the trade goes, you said it again, though. I mean, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot because you said blockbuster. Again, it's absolutely not a blockbuster trade by any stretch of the imagination. But at least, you know, something's being done. Obviously, they're not happy with how things are going right now. They're willing to make the trade. I mean, it's not that they're getting a very nice player. I mean, he's tough. He gets after it, and I respect that a lot for Schröder. But you know, and they can get some more scoring. And I guess, you know, the pod man's been a little bit inconsistent, so I don't know how much time he'll get. He may lose a lot of time with this move. But they're willing to, you know, give up a second-round draft pick in order to pull it off, and you know, and a player. So you get swap the player, one loss of one second-round draft pick. Now, here's the thing. Do you think about this trade? Well, let's finish with this trade. I'm going to bring up another thing that I just read about. So let's get done with this and kind of analyze this a little bit. As I say, I think he can help them in a number of ways. He's a tough defender, and he can score some points. And plays with a lot of confidence. I mean, I like his game because I like his demeanor on the court. He gets after it. I love a player that's putting his heart, body, and soul into it, and that's the way it should be. I mean, my God, you're getting paid millions of freaking dollars. You're doing something that you love, grew up with, is an incredible part of your life, and without it, you wouldn't have the life that you have. How do you not go out there and just bust your ass every time you put your uniform on? Okay, that kind of bothers me that some guys don't do that.
Yeah,
but Schröder does, so I like that about him. So. Well, we'll see. The biggest thing to me is that I don't like the Warriors have lost a couple of games. The Denver game, this game, they should not have lost that game against the Rockets. I mean, Yeah, and a horrible call. I have to agree with Steve Kerr's assessment. That's just a horrible call by the official to make that loose ball foul call at that stage of the game. That's insane. But you just can't give up leads like that. That's twice now that they're playing on the road, and they give up a victory to Denver was even worse. But yeah, it hurts, and especially since they would have had a chance to go, because the Cup is a big thing. They're promoting the heck out of it. I think it's cool. Even my wife, who ran women's basketball for years, USA, the women's side of things, she even said, that Emirates thing is pretty good. It gives a little excitement. Look for some things to do. The guys playing for a little bit something at the start of the season. So I think it was an experiment that I think has proven to have been proven worthwhile. And I think they should continue to do it. I like that aspect of it. But it's disappointing that the Warriors didn't move on. I mean,
and as we're recording this, it's Saturday, 3:16 p.m. at this moment, and on my TV set, Rick, it's the semifinal of the NBA Cup. It's the Hawks and the Bucks.
Close game, real close game.
Yeah, and it's a good game. It's a close game. But again, the news is Dennis Schröder, and we got to talk about this because it's huge. First of all, I want to address real fast. Cool Breeze in the chat saying great trade for the Warriors, and that it's being reported that the Warriors turned down trading Jonathan Kuminga for Cam Johnson. I want to make one thing very clear, because this is an example, Rick, of the current media paradigm just being an absolute shit show. There is no report indicating that the Nets wanted Jonathan Kuminga. One person said that it's likely that the Nets would want Kuminga. No shit. Who doesn't want Jonathan Kuminga? There is no report indicating that is what the Brooklyn Nets actually wanted, that would have been a deal breaker. And Rick, I want to talk about this Schröder trade for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, I 100% agree with you that I added hyperbole by calling it a blockbuster. In reality, I want to make one thing very clear. If this is the only trade the Warriors make, they're not doing a damn thing. This does not translate to a championship. This might translate to a playoff berth. And I don't know if I'm like scarred or traumatized from all those years of Nelly ball, but I'm tired of small ball, Rick. I'm tired of the Warriors routinely being the diminutive team. And this is just more of that same. Dennis Schröder is not a two-guard by any measure. He's 6'1", 175 pounds. That's his listed size. I know this year he's averaging 18.4 points per game. He's shooting 45.2% from the field and adding to that 38.7% from three, which is good. It's not great, but it's good.
That's a very good percentage.
Right, but I mean, in perspective, like Wiggins is putting up 43, right? 38 is the number that Clay shot last year, which is good, but no one was raving about that number, right?
I'm not saying it's not a great. You have to be, if you're at 40% in threes, then you're talking about something special. But 38 is pretty darn close, and that's 5 percentage points a bunch 33, and 33 is equivalent to 50% from twos. So statistically, that's a pretty damn good.
Agreed.
Percentage.
Agreed. I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm not. But what I am saying is, I don't think this solves anything. Maybe these. Your thoughts, sir. Your thoughts.
No, I agree with you 100%. It's not solving anything. I mean, it's like trying. Well, why? That's I'd like to know. I'd like to know from Steve Kerr why they made the trade.
Yes.
I mean,
Rick, you know what I wish? Back in 2019, after the Warriors won their third title of the dynasty, the second straight in the KD era, they went out and signed Boogie Cousins. In case people have forgotten about that, at the time, that was huge news. And I feel like after that season is when Steve Kerr went from just being a head coach who let the front office do front office things. And now I feel like the team is making decisions to suit what Steve Kerr wants. And I think that's a detriment. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you're the coach, it's the best thing in the world because
yes.
You're controlling your own destiny. You're not being handed a bunch of chicken shit telling you to make chicken salad out of it. So if I'm Steve Kerr, I'm thrilled to death with that concept. And actually, that's what they try to do in football. And, so that's what you have to do. You just don't draft the best athlete. If you're going to draft the person and you're doing what they're doing, you have to draft the person that fits and plays that system.
Yeah.
And this is what happens a lot in basketball is that players are drafted. They don't really fit. The coach has a system and it's not the right system for them.
Yeah.
So therefore, he's not going to be a huge help to them. And so it really comes down to the draft, how critical it is to figure out where you're going. Are you going to stay with this coach? Or are you going to have a system? Yes, he does not necessarily. It's a system, but he plays the game the way I think it should be played, which is basically up-tempo, pass, cut, move, do all of the good things offensively, tough team defense, and play with an attitude. I mean, you're playing hard. Those are the guys you want to try to draft. And so if you do that, you have an opportunity to be incredibly competitive.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to. And most teams do a very bad job of that. And so a poor coach sometimes gets stuck with a guy and conversely, sometimes the player gets stuck with a guy. The example I always bring up when I talk about this, I bring it up Dallas Mavericks, okay? Dick Motta, slow down Chicago Bulls, because I remember him well, right? 75. And he goes to Dallas and he's coaching there, and he's the slow down control guy. So he trades a player, doesn't hardly ever play, and trades him away to Seattle. And he got rid of him, and he hardly played at all. Because why? That wasn't his system, the way he plays. Okay, I knew the way he plays. That's not he was not going to fit in that system. So he's gone. Becomes an all-star player, leads the league in 3-point shooting. Dale Ellis. Dale Ellis was on the Dallas Mavericks, getting nothing from him. They trade him. He leads the league in 3-point shooting, makes all-star team. Because why? He had a chance to go and play and utilize his talents in a place where he can do that. Yeah. And so that's the critical element. I mean, if I had gone to a team to play like that, yeah. Could I have played? Yeah. Would I have been the player that I became? No. No way. I mean, there's no way I would have had the opportunity to play the game the way that I played it best. And so you have to be lucky on both ends.
Yes, you're absolutely right, sir. And Ion in the chat drop in, or Ian, I apologize, drop in $5 saying, great pickup. I don't doubt that. It's a good move. It's a great move, actually. But you see all these people saying it's a great move because now we might see less Pajemski. Fine. But again, I thought the Warriors were aiming for a world championship culture, not a let's make the playoffs culture.
Well, this is why this is what I'm talking about here, Cyrus, is that why in the world, well, of course, I guess it hasn't been totally validated. They say it's going to happen. It's in the final stages. I want to know from the Warriors, why? Explain to your fan base why you made this trade. So you then can say, okay, great. And then you can like it or dislike it. But right now it's total speculation. We don't know what's going on. And to get everybody to just relax and take it easy and be able to deal with it, we need to know why they made this trade.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable question.
Very, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll hear from it soon. They'll likely have a press conference, announcing the Schröder trade. But I will say this, Rick, it is very rare for the Golden State Warriors to make mid-season trades, at least during the Steve Kerr era. The only one I could think of off the top of my head, at least of significance, was the Andrew Wiggins trade. And that was in a season where the Warriors were in full-on, mail it in, rebuild, let's just hit reset after 5 straight years of making the NBA Finals. So it is, I commend the team for making a move. It's just, if you watch this show on a regular basis, you never once heard me say, of all the players out there that can make a true difference for this team, Dennis Schröder is it. It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid. And Rick, let me ask you this.
A Band-Aid for what? No, that's what I'm saying. A Band-Aid for what's he fixing?
Well, that's a good thing you bring up. I think from what we've also, Rick, you and I, all we can do is observe and react to what we see. And what I'm seeing with Steve Kerr, and please add to this if you think I'm wrong, or maybe you want to just add on to what I'm saying. But Steve Kerr, to me, seems like a head coach that has a very heavy emphasis, or places a very heavy emphasis on ball handlers. He values them. I always wonder if Andre Iguodala would have gotten the minutes he got if he could not play like a point guard. Sean Livingston's another example. And those guys were tall, big, two-way players that were not a detriment being on the court, but they also had point guard skills. And I feel like if you don't have these very elite ball handling skills, you're not going to be in Kerr's favor. And that that precedes a lot of these roster decisions, is who can handle the ball like a traditional point guard. I personally think that's kind of ridiculous to put that level of emphasis. Call me old school. I think size still matters in basketball, and thankfully, I don't think Kerr doesn't value shooting, which I think is very important. But the ball handling thing is just at the top of his list, and I don't know why that is. What are your thoughts on what I think from my observations?
Well, first of all, you don't know what's going on in the head of the coach for sure. And so it's just all kind of speculation. I mean, sometimes I think I know what he's doing, sometimes I don't. But I know,
Correct.
having coached myself, that sometimes you do know what you're doing and sometimes you don't. I mean, that's just reality, and that's freaking life, okay? And you're kind of going on the fly, and that's the whole thing I think about coaching, is to make the adjustments instantaneously during the course of a game, and you see what's going on and you don't like what's going on. You don't like the matchups that are out there, and you make a substitution because you need to change the dynamic of the game at that particular time. And so those are the kind of things that I think are really, really critical. And I know that Steve's gotten a lot of heat lately for his decisions as to who the hell he has in the game at the end of a game. Yes. And he needs to really evaluate that, because they've cost, themselves, they cost a chance to move on and go and be in the semifinals, playing in the Emirates Cup as a result of that.
Yes.
I mean, and it's not just all, his fault, and that's the thing. But, guys, same thing. I mean, I just saw Kuminga wants $35 million, I heard, right?
that is reported. He wanted 35. The Warriors countered with 30. So the Warriors were still going to give him $30 million a year, and Kuminga thought that was not enough. Kind of reminded me of your situation with the Warriors when you left, and that 10,000, at inflation, 10,000 is now $5 million. But that's what it came down to. Kuminga turned down the extra $5 million out of principal.
I'm glad you brought that up, because now I like Jonathan Kuminga. Okay, we've talked about him. I've been very positive on him, and I thought he has a big upside. Yeah. There's a lot of things that would get my hands on him and teach him. However, he's got guys in his head telling him he's not a $35 million a year player, not the way that he's playing and the level he's playing at right now. Okay, well, I mean, come on. And you say only $30 million. Somebody's willing to give you $30 million, and you think it's worth $5 million more, and you want to play with that hanging over your head. Hey, go out there and kick butt, because then if you really kick butt, next time you'll be able to get $50 million.
Exactly. Well, it's still going to probably just be 35, because he's still going to be like a fourth-year player coming off a rookie deal, and I don't think the amount's going to matter. But it was an issue of principle, and I think a lot of it came down to what the other players in his draft class were getting. I guess his agent is where this comes in. His agent seeing Jalen Green's, Suggs, Franz Wagner, who got picked behind him. They're getting these max deals, and Kuminga's seeing that and thinking, why shouldn't I get that? I think that's the logic behind why he's asking for 35 and wasn't satisfied with 30. And look, he's betting on himself. I respect that. He's got confidence to believe that he can make it. But that's what it came down to, Rick. And I don't know if you have an opinion on that.
He's entitled to make his own, decisions in that regard. And if he feels he's worth that, then go for it. I'm personally saying I wouldn't give him that much. I mean, I really wouldn't. I think they overpay these guys. It's just they pay them way damn too much money. They're so fortunate to even have a job playing the game of basketball and becoming millionaires in the process, and then carrying on like it's very difficult for me. Call me old school, call whatever. And I am, I'm old. Okay. So I am. Can't believe I'm this old.
But age is just a number, right, Rick?
I mean, here's the thing. How much do you need to have a good life? Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, there's not a person out there who's listening to this. There's not a person out there, probably maybe 99.9% of the people out there would be thrilled to get $30 million for 1 year.
100%. No, you're absolutely.
And especially to just play basketball.
You're preaching to the choir, sir. To me, greed is the most rampant evil in this world. I'm not saying people who want 35 or versus 30 are evil, but yes, be content in life. Like, people just cannot be content. You're right. That's a shitload of money, Rick. And it wasn't enough, but to be a professional NBA player in today's era, man. I mean, Jesus, like, were people, Rick, when you played, were people at all criticizing NBA players in the 70s and 60s and even early 80s? Were they criticizing you guys for the money you made, or did people back then say?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Shit, we weren't making any kind. Come on. I mean, I don't care what kind of inflation you take. I had my first year, I was offered $12,500 to play the entire season. $12,500. Okay. I negotiated, no agents and stuff, up to 15. And I even got tough. I even got a $3,000 signing bonus. And you know what, Cyrus? I use the same expression all the time when I tell this story. I was as happy as a pig in slop. I couldn't believe that I was making $18,000 to play basketball.
Yep.
I mean, and so, but things have changed a lot. I mean, everything is so much more expensive at all. But 15,000 does not equate to 60 million I would be making now if I was 30 years old. I had to get a 5-year contract for $300 or more $million, 60 million or more a year. So 15,000 to 60 million. It just doesn't even resonate. But I can't fathom that. Can't fathom that I would have made that much money. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I can't fathom it either. I have no clue what it's like. And again, we're coming to you live immediately following the breaking news. Shams Charania was the first to report it, that the Golden State Warriors are trading DeAnthony Melton's expiring deal. That's the good news in all this, is that the Warriors ultimately gave up the assets they lost were 2 future second-round picks. You can live with that to acquire Dennis Schröder. My fear is that we're going to start seeing lineups out there where we see Steph, GP2, Pajemski, and Dennis Schröder, and then maybe someone that constitutes a big and that's going to be your 5-man lineup at times.
I don't know at that. I don't think we'll ever see that, to be honest with you.
Oh, we shall see. I would not be surprised.
That would be insane. That would be like screwed around in practice with the littles against the bigs. I mean, yeah.
I'm telling you, do not be surprised if you see a lineup out there that has Steph, Schröder, Pods, GP2, and say Looney or Dre or Camille. I'm telling you, man, it's losing. Well, this leads to a question I'd love to ask you, Rick, and discuss, because I texted you and I asked you if you don't mind talking on the show today about who, in your opinion, should be the closing lineup for the Golden State Warriors. And this is part of the reason why the Dennis Schröder trade doesn't move the needle that much for me, because what I feel is the Warriors' biggest concern is their closing 5. They don't have that established. And if you don't have that established, I don't think you have an identity established. I'm going to get into some numbers that I researched courtesy of like net ratings and how some lineups are playing over the last 10 games, where the Warriors have been just 3-7 after a 12-3 start. Rick, in your opinion, who are the 5 players? Even now they got Dennis Schröder, so maybe this makes things a little more complicated. But in your opinion, who are the 5 players on this roster that the Warriors should close with?
To be honest, I don't watch them that closely enough to be able to make a comment on that, and that'd be foolish on my part to do that. But I agree with you, because I said it earlier that they lost those games, and they lost those games because they're turning the ball over, doing stuff, and whoever's on the court at that time is a critical element. I mean, it's one thing not to start; it's another thing to be on the bench in the last 2.5 minutes or 5 minutes. Okay. If you don't start, like a couple of my boys I know when they played, they didn't start, but they were on the floor in the last 5 minutes. That's that you want to be, that if you've got a goal as a player and you're not a starter, play well enough and accept the non-starting role, but know that they think a lot of you, because if you're on that court in that last 5 minutes, that means they know that you're the guy they want out there because you are playing the game the right way.
Yeah. So do you not want to answer that because you feel like it
would be hard to do it. Plus the fact, I really do believe that it's not something set in stone. It's also, who are you playing and what are your matchups at the time? So it can't be just 5 guys you're going to play, because those 5 against this team with the people around the floor is not a good matchup. So that's the whole thing about coaching. You're getting back to a system guy. Oh, I'm going to do it this way, and I got to, no, you have to adapt as the game is going on. But he has to know who he should have on the floor playing against the matchups that he wants, that are not going to make the mistakes, that are going to play more intelligently. That's the biggest thing now, trying to find out who those guys are. And again, every game, it could be a different decision that you have to make because of who you're playing against.
Well, the reason why I bring it up is because for the Warriors' 4 title teams, they had the death lineup, right? I mean, you had your 5 guys where there was no overthinking it. There was no coaching needed to determine who the 5 players were that you were going to close with. And that certainty, I think, was a huge advantage for the Warriors, where you didn't have to worry about matchups and worry about who the opponents are bringing out there. You had your 5 set in stone. So are you saying that, like, unlike past years where you had your death lineups where you knew it was going to be Steph, Clay, Draymond, when Durant was there, Durant was the guy, Wiggins was your 5th. That changed a little bit when the Warriors won in 2022, but 4 of the 5 were there for that as well. And the 5th could have been Jordan Poole, or in 2022 was Otto Porter Jr. was that 5th guy. Are you saying that this year's team just doesn't have that makeup where you can determine who that closing lineup is? Or
Obviously not, because look at how many. Well, no, seriously, look at how many people he's playing and the different lineups he's put in there. He's in a quandary right now, trying to figure out who I need to have on the floor, who's going to play well and all. And it's a tough situation. Again, because he has the depth, he has the players, that the difference between the maybe 4th guy on this team and the 10th guy on this team is not very dramatic.
Yeah.
It's just the size, the position they're playing, and certain skills. And so it really is always like a chess game that you're playing, and you're moving and doing stuff. I mean, it's and obviously you got to give a lot of thought to it. Unfortunately, you don't, it's like you have to hit the timer in chess, right? When you get a chance, how much time you have to move. Well, the same thing in here. You got to look at it, evaluate, but you eventually got to make a move. And in the course of a game, you don't have the time even to do that. That's something that has to just happen. You got to see it, what happened, boom, make the move. If you don't like what you see, that's where the coaching, I think, really comes into play.
Well, Rick, I've been observing and playing this game for, I did the math, 40 years now, which means, Rick, I mean, I don't know how early you remember your earliest years in life. Like, I remember going back to 3 years old, incredibly, and some people don't have much memory of their childhood. I remember from 3 years on, I have pretty clear, vivid memories, and I started watching basketball when I was young. So, Rick, I'm going to estimate you've been watching and playing for 75 years, right? So we both have been watching and have been playing this game for a damn long time. So our opinion, I think, has some relevancy, especially given you're one of the greatest to ever play. Yours particularly has a shitload of relevancy. Here's what I've seen with this team, and let me know if you disagree or agree, or what your thoughts are. To me, 4 of the 5 players are set. And this is part of where I guess me and Kerr just are seeing different things entirely. But like, to me, if you're not finishing games with and playing important minutes with Steph, Draymond, Wiggins, and Kuminga, and the 5th I thought was settled with DeAnthony Melton, and this is where I don't think Dennis Schröder can carry Melton's weight in terms of defending opposing 2s and so forth. Melton fit that role pretty good. But the 4, again, Steph, Wiggins, Draymond, Kuminga. Those, if you're not closing with those 4, we're seeing a different game, me and Steve Kerr. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think those 4 have earned like a cemented role, at least as closing games, playing the important minutes?
Well, again, not being there all the time, seeing things up close on a daily basis. I like the 4 that you picked. Yeah, you would think under reasonable circumstances, yeah, you would want those guys on the floor. Yeah. And the beauty of it is then to find out who that 5th person is going to be, and that could depend upon who the matchups and all are. Plus the fact, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your idea. Yes, ideally with the team you mentioned with KD and those guys, yeah, I mean, you had to be an idiot not to have those guys on the floor at the end of the game. I mean, so that's an important part. That's the important part of it. But you can also make the change, because if you put them in and it's not working, you got to make that change right away. You can't just go and die with it, right? And so you have to recognize and see, are we doing what we need to do against these guys and let them worry about us, or are they causing me a problem? Well, I got to make a change.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I did some research on these last 10 games in terms of lineups and what worked and didn't work. And the foursome that I just mentioned, Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, Dre. Those 4, when they're they played 28 minutes together on the court in these last 10 games. And there's been a lot of injuries. Wiggins has missed games. Kuminga missed a couple games. Dre, they all missed games. But they played 28 minutes together. They were plus 11. And every time I see those 4 on the court together, I feel good. I feel like the Warriors have their established identity. And like you said, the 5th has been by committee, depending on matchups, who's hot. I thought the 5th should be, to me, and again, this is all subjective, right? It's just my opinion, and I could be wrong on all this, but from what I'm seeing, I thought the 5th player that seems to fit best for this closing lineup, it gives you spacing, he's good enough defensively, has been Buddy Hield, who is one of the team's best outside shooters. And then I did my research over the last 10 games, right, to see what those 5 together, how they play, and what their net rating is when they're on the court together. And I found out they've never played together in the last 10 games. We haven't seen a single second of playtime with those 5 together. And that makes me wonder if it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just, I'm frustrated.
Here's the thing. I'm not, a huge fan of analytics. I mean, I am a fan. It's kind of like the 3-point shot in a way when it came in, that if used properly, all for it.
Yeah.
But it can be abused. Same thing with analytics. If used properly, they can be extremely helpful, but not to the point that you rely totally and completely on it. It still has to be a lot with the feel. But I would agree, because of the analytics they have and just the stats that you brought up, what those 4 guys did on the court, that it's a positive thing. And so why would you not? That would be interesting for me as a coach to want to know that and see that it's been working, because now I say, okay, great. Let's see who the other person is. I think in the situation for those types of things, analytics are great.
Yeah, and again, I don't even think this is really like advanced analytics. It's literally a lot of it's just eye test. It's just I think those 5 work together.
Hey,
and
hey,
then,
well, let me stop you there. Hold on.
Okay, please do.
Trust
Please
me.
do.
For me, when I was growing up, analytics, I mean, they hardly exist. The computer age and the stuff that's going on. Trust me.
I agree with you.
Analytics to you, because of when you grew up with the iPhones and all the other stuff, you don't think it's that big a deal. I'm telling you, analytics compared to what we had, because we had nothing hardly. We hardly had anything.
No, you're right. I think analytics is grossly overrated. I'm totally with you. I do not think you need analytics to determine who is a good basketball player out there and who isn't. Side note, according to Anthony Slater of The Athletic, Steve Kerr relied on the team's head of analytics to determine who the Warriors' starting lineup was going to be. The starting lineup, in other words, that we saw against the Rockets and against the Timberwolves, where GP2 was starting, where you saw Pajemski starting. Steve Kerr incredibly relied on analytics to put that lineup together. It worked against the Timberwolves, did not work against the Houston Rockets. And this is the lineup of Steph, Buddy Hield, Gary Payton II, Kuminga, and Draymond Green. That was your starting 5 for 2 straight games. Steve Kerr relied on the Warriors' director of analytics, Pavel Sidhu, to instill that starting lineup. I agree. I don't think you should be going to your analytics people to make starting lineups, but that's just Rick, and apparently that's just you as well. Rick, Bill M in the chat is saying the Warriors need a consistent shooter. I agree. What do you think, Rick? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, in the past they had 3 and 4. So they've been a little spoiled, to say the least. But yeah, you really need to. But I think that they do. They need another one. They have 2 pretty. I mean, Buddy and Steph. I think they're fine. But they need to get someone else. Wiggs has been up and down, although he's a lot better this year. He's been shooting the hell out of it. So
yes, he
they
has.
have 3 guys. They have 3 guys now. So it's not all about just the shooting. It's turning the ball over. That's been a nemesis of theirs. Even during the championship years, man, they struggle at times. Sometimes they're too fancy with the passes, not thinking about what you're doing, trying to make a pass. I mean, the whole thing is it when you have the ball and you're playing, if I pass this to my teammate, is he really going to be in a good position to do something with that ball? And if not, why the hell are you throwing it to him?
You're right. That's a great question. It's a great question. I don't have an answer for you, sir. I have no answer for you. In the chat as well, Trey Achoa, I hope I pronounced that correctly, donated $5. Thank you very much, saying, what do we think of Dennis Schröder burning the Warriors in that Brooklyn Warriors game last month, where he dropped 31 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds? Yeah, great. Look, I'm not saying this is a bad trade. I'm far from it. I do think this improves the Warriors. What I'm trying to say is, and again, I've advocated this repeatedly, and Rick, I think you agree with me on this, correct me if I'm wrong, that I think Stephen Curry is one of the most special human beings to have graced the planet while we're alive. And we're lucky to have him be a part of this. The Dub Nation is lucky to have him be a part of this. I want Steph to win a 5th championship. That's my agenda. And this Dennis Schröder trade, it helps things. But I don't think it's enough to put the Warriors over the hump. And that's why I'm not satisfied. If the Warriors make another trade where, like, Vucevic to me would solve everything. Everything. If you don't have to give up much for him. But that's just me. Rick, your thoughts, sir?
I agree with everything that you said. I mean, we talked about the Vucevic thing at another time when I was on with you. But yeah, that they need something along those lines more than they need somebody along Schroeder's lines. But I still can't wait to see I hope sometimes the answer comes out. Why did you make the trade? What was it that you were trying to do? Well, I mean, that's a question that the first reporter, if that's not the first question out of the mouth of a reporter when they get a chance to go to a press conference, I don't know what these people are thinking about. They should be fired. I mean, why? Why did you make
There's like hardly any reporters left.
Then after that, when you say why, and then you listen to what he has to say, the big answer, you said, well, okay, I understand why, but what is it that he's bringing, whatever, if he doesn't, and you have another one and really probe this thing and try to figure out why. I just like to know that. It's the same thing. It took forever, and I still don't know if I got the definitive answer as to why KD left.
Well, I mean, we've never gotten a clear answer, but Rick, I think and maybe look, it's an assumption, and I agree that if anyone thinking out their assumptions are dumb, you're right. So I can only assume. I think it's a safe assumption though that KD just wanted his own road, his own path. Like he didn't like being second fiddle to Steph. If that's the case, I think that's
we don't know. That's what I'm saying. I just would like to know, why did he leave? I just, because hey, I'm not mad at him. He can do whatever he wants to do, but I'm curious, just from curiosity standpoint, why? Why?
You know why, Rick? Because Kevin Durant's addicted to Twitter, and he reads everything everyone else is writing about him. And the entire time he was with the Warriors, you had millions, or maybe that's excessive, but
no, probably was
thousands.
Millions.
What? I'm sorry.
It probably was millions.
Maybe it was millions who were just criticizing the move. I mean, we heard people calling him Snake, Cupcake, all these nicknames that undoubtedly was bothering him. And he probably just wanted to get away from that. But
he came here and the MVP said, "Here, you can be MVP. Yeah. I want to win," and they did. It's just, it breaks my heart to see that, like this when Kobe and Shaq broke up. I mean, I'd love to see greatness, and they were breaking up one of the great tandems, and then the same situation with, anyway, that's the kind of stuff.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I hear my response to all that is, if Kevin Durant's listening, get the hell off that thing, man. Why are you listening to the noise? Like, you don't have to. You can shelter yourself from that and just be happy. But
you're one of the greatest players ever. Yeah. One of the greatest players ever. There's never been a guy your size that plays the game. Though you're an anomaly. Okay, you have a new dimension to the game and the position and what you're able to do on the court. So anybody that knows the game, I think, appreciates your greatness. So I hope you get a chance to win. Well, now I'll root for you to win again because you're down there. My son Brenda's an assistant coach at the Sun. So if the Warriors can't do that, then I'll be pulling for you.
There you go.
But, seriously, I mean, that's. Yeah,
it's a shame. It's a shame. And by the way, Bill M dropped another $2, Rick, because he wanted to correct what he wrote previously or add an addendum, which is he's asking if you yourself, Rick, can come back and play for the Warriors and give them the shooter they desperately need. I want to entertain this. How would it look if you decided to come back and play at the age of 80 years old? Like, would you just get injured right away, or would people blow past you, or would you hold your own?
They would go past me like I wasn't even standing there. I mean, it'd be, I still might be able to make a 3-point shot, and I sure as hell can make a free throw. But what I've been trying to do is, for decades, but they won't listen to me. Like baseball did it. I said, well, why not basketball? Let's have the designated free throw shooter.
Ooh.
See, there you go. Now I can still make a comeback because even at my advanced age, I can probably shoot better than the very high percentage of the players currently playing in the NBA, which they should be ashamed of themselves, because if you're not at least an 80% free throw shooter, you're not a good free throw shooter. And I don't know how you can live with yourself, because it's the only part of the game you can be selfish. So anybody passes this along to any of these players, I'm not putting them down as far as human beings. I'm just saying, what are you thinking about? Why would you not want to get to be better at something that no one's trying to stop you from doing it? And you can be selfish. If you're selfish in any other area of the game, you're hurting your team, but not with free throws. So, get with the program, man. Come on. Just
the free throw shooting. You're right. It's abysmal. For the Warriors are dead last in the NBA, Rick, in free throw shooting. Like, why are they not calling it?
Kuminga cost him a game against the Rockets.
Yeah, he missed. I mean, look, he was the leading scorer for that game. I feel bad just picking, him out of the.
Yeah, but if you won $35 million, you better make the damn free throws.
That's fair. That's fair. You're absolutely right. If you want that extra $5 million a year, I 100% agree with you. Make your damn free throws. He's shooting, I think, 58% from the charity stripe, which is absurd.
But he wants $35 million. Okay, so
right.
Give me a break.
You're right. That's fair. I have no rebuttal to that. You're right. I want to play this clip, Rick, shifting gears, because this went under the radar, and I hope if people are watching the recording of this on YouTube is very punitive when it comes to playing anything regarding NBA clips. I am forever mystified at how people are making money out there, whether showing NBA highlights and breaking things down, because if I play anything, Half the time YouTube's like, you cannot monetize this video. And then I have to edit that clip out in order to monetize it. I don't know how people pull this off regardless. I'm saying all that because if you're watching this recording and you don't see this clip, it is on my Threads account and my Twitter account. Go check it out there if you want to see it. But this clip, it was at the end of the Rockets and Warriors game. And again, hardly anyone is talking about this. I don't know why that's the case. But this, again, there was 30 seconds remaining and this happened. And I'll play the sound as well. But basically, you're going to see a clip where Buddy Hield is not happy with Brandon Pajemski. We'll get into the why of that. But again, no one's talking about it. And Rick, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Here we go. And there's no sound, folks. All right. So if you watch
it's nothing. I mean, things happen. Guys get upset with stuff, getting in a guy's case and doing it. I mean, that's just part of being a team, and you get over it. It's nothing personal. I mean, it's just you're caught up in the emotion of the game, and that's the way you need to look at stuff like that. And don't make the old proverbial mountain out of a molehill. Now, if he had turned and punched him, then maybe we would have said something.
Well, I just want to provide some context as well. Apparently, what happened there is the Fred VanVleet three-pointer with about 32 seconds remaining that cut the Warriors lead from 90 to 86 to 90-89. And then that egregious Bill Kennedy call at the end sealed the fate of the Warriors. But the reason why Buddy Hield was upset was because apparently Brandon Pajemski did not fight over a screen to impede VanVleet's three-point attempt. He instead tried to go under the screen, and that allowed VanVleet to take that three fairly openly. Again, is that just something that rookies learn? Is that a bigger issue at play? What are your thoughts on the context of why?
Yeah, well, it should be a learning experience. Everything in life is a learning experience, and that's one that he would hopefully learn from and fight over. But nobody's talking about the fact. See, again, this is where you need to understand, know how to play the game. It's not necessarily, and why did he not fight over? Okay, why? Because his teammate, who was guarding the guy that was now becoming a screener, didn't play good enough defense to give him a chance to fight over by exposing himself and forcing the offensive player to get a little wider and be in a position to help. It was horseshit defense on the part of his teammate that caused the problem. Now, there's a learning lesson for you folks.
There, and I'm always listening, Rick. You have taught me so much. I will forever be baffled at the fact that NBA teams are not calling you constantly to pay you the salary you deserve to provide your expertise for an NBA team. But I digress. Rick, NBA ratings are down substantially. Some figures place it at 42% from a year ago. I saw another one that's at 28%. Regardless, people are not watching NBA basketball like they used to be. I have a couple. I've heard a couple of crazy ideas that I want to throw at you to see if you think they're as wild as they sound, or maybe these ideas would be fruitful. But before I present these two ideas that I stole from someone else, these were social media accounts. I have no idea who they were, but I randomly saw these, and they've been in my head for a few days, and I wanted to run them by you and on this show. But first and foremost, Rick, what is going on? Why do you think the NBA product is not selling like it used to?
Who knows? I mean, there could be in today's world, it could be a jillion different reasons. How about a guy in a restaurant wouldn't serve a guy because he had a Trump hat on or something? I mean, it's like stupid stuff like that goes on because of politics and other things. And that can have an impact on it. I mean, it really, truly can, which is sad. I mean, very sad. But and then I'm sure there's some reasons that they're going to find out because they do all these surveys and they're going to look into it and try to figure out why. And so we'll see. I'm actually going to be interested to see myself, why. And I'm sure the NBA is on it because they're a great marketing machine. They really, truly are. And if that's happening, I guarantee you that there's a lot of heads rolling and they're doing a lot of things to look into finding out why and what can they do to get it changed. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons they did the change to the cup, And obviously that's not helping all that much now, even because if the ratings are down that much, how big a draw has it been? I don't know. And they'll have all that data, analytics almost, right? There we go.
Well, Rick, I do think, and I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, but I do think a huge part of it is the ridiculous over-representation, or at least the ridiculous influence of small market teams on the NBA as a whole. And what I mean by that is this complicated CBA that makes life difficult to pull off trades, that makes life difficult for teams like the Warriors to keep their free agents. All these complications are because small market teams, they don't want to keep up in spending with the big market teams. They've got owners that oftentimes are frugal. They don't want to expand either. That's another thing. NBA expansion. If you could expand by 4 teams, you'd have 4 more media markets you're adding to the game. The talent is there for that, but you have small market teams not wanting to split up the revenue share even more. So they keep stalling it and pushing it back. I think the influence of small market teams is absurd on this game, and I think they're hurting it more than helping. I don't know if you care about that or if that matters. Yeah, it seems like no one cares, but I do think that's a huge part of this. Are you ready to hear some? Sorry,
real quickly, I don't like to respond to your thing. I don't know if that's the case or not, because the small market teams don't have the base. I mean, the millions of people are in the bigger marketplaces, and so why are those people not watching? I mean, much bigger fan base, but obviously it's impacting them as well. So I don't necessarily think it's the small big thing. There's something else going on here. The product itself. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to find out.
I agree. I wholeheartedly. Well, these are the 2 ideas I heard. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because they're kind of crazy, but they were enough. They were thought provoking and enough interesting enough for me to bring it up on the show. One is someone proposed this idea, and it did make me go, which is make slam dunks worth 3 points. Your thoughts?
Absolutely the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, the reason
somebody was high. Somebody had to be smoking dope or doing something.
Logic. Well, here's why I thought
there is no logic.
Well, it is because part of the reason why the game has become a little less interesting and why ratings are down is because of this emphasis on the 3-point shot. It is not as interesting to watch NBA players just heave threes. And if you gave value to the slam dunk, suddenly you're seeing an inside-out game again. Suddenly you're seeing people in the post again. Suddenly you're seeing the game that we used to watch regularly in the 80s and 90s, or at least for me. You still think it's an awful idea?
Here's the thing.
Okay,
I see where you're coming from, and that's a good logical reason to want to possibly do it because of what the 3-point shot is doing. However, the reality of it is there's more of an opportunity to get a dunk now because of the floor being spread than there would be if it wasn't that, because it would be packed in there. So you wouldn't even see as many dunks. Okay. And so now you see a lot of dunks. So what the hell? You can't give 3 points for that.
All right, fair. Again, I'm not endorsing these ideas. I heard them and I thought they were interesting.
I know, and I'm giving you my opinion on it.
I love it. This is great. This is great content here. And then the other one, and I love your thoughts on this one as well, is someone else proposed an idea of free throws only being shot at the end of quarters.
That's exactly what they should do, and that's why they have the designated free throw shooter. Rick Barry's making a comeback. There we go.
You like this idea? I think it would be intriguing. Let's say like a team has 10 free throws at the end of a game, and they're down by 8. Suddenly, those free throws. I mean, people are glued watching those things. I don't know. So you actually like that idea, huh? Of free throws at the end of the quarter, and then you would add
it certainly would be novel and do something. They make all other kind of crazy changes. And as bad as some of the free throw shooters are, I think coaches would love it.
Yes.
You want to win. You want to win more games. You sure as hell would love it. You're gonna have your best free throw shooter be able to shoot the freaking free throws, right? But the thing is like I'm saying, my thing is to be a caveat. If I can make a comeback, you can't be your designated free throws can't be an active player as far as a player on your roster that's doing it if he's playing. Okay, it's got to be a special one. That's his job. It's just to shoot free throws. That's the only way I can get in. Otherwise, anyway, it would be so great to do that. Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, you want to talk about you better have some confidence, because boy, there'll be a lot of situations that supposedly pressure would be a factor. Okay. But yeah, that would be kind of cool. Like you said, right? You're down, you're doing something end of the quarter, end of the fourth quarter.
Oh,
Can you imagine the end of the fourth quarter?
Riveting.
And the whole game could come down to the free throws.
It would be like a penalty kick
It's kind of
situation.
like what's happening in professional football. It's like the field goal. It's become the field goal, right?
Exactly. And we wouldn't have all these timeouts. It would make the game go by faster. I don't know. So just some ideas.
It would be very interesting to say the least. But it would just imagine. I mean, just say you got end of the quarter, you have 5 free throws, right? That the team's entitled to. You're down by 3.
You're absolutely right. And then you have Raymond M in the chat.
Or you're down by 4. You got a chance. You got to make all 5 to win.
You could be down by 10. I mean, that's the crazy part, right?
But then again, you don't know also because the other team, you have to count on how many free throws are they getting and how many is that guy going to make.
The whole other strategy, it would make things
a whole
interesting.
Different thing. It's kind of like having, the shootout in soccer where you get the shots at the goal and stuff, whatever.
The penalty kicks, yeah. And then
I pray if I am turning on the soccer match to have a shootout. I mean, I just love the shootout. Same thing in hockey. I'd love to watch that. That's the most fun because I'm an A-type personality. I score points, man. Let's go. Let's move action. And you're going to get the best action because you're going to get these shots on goal and see what the goalkeeper can do. And I'd love it. You want to talk about putting yourself in a pressure cooker if you don't have confidence. If you were a soccer player, and I'll tell you what, in some of those countries, you miss some of those freaking shots and you're in trouble. Those people will turn on you.
You could be murdered.
Look at what happened to Beckham. I had no idea that what Beckham went through overseas with what happened with him.
Right.
If you want to watch a really good documentary about it, is watch the Beckham documentary. It was really, really interesting to me, and I had no idea and have a lot of respect for him now for what he did.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Now I'm intrigued. I did not have the Beckham documentary on my to watch list, but it's going to be in there.
Neither did I, and I just happened to, and I said, well, I'll check it out and see. I was on a kick where I wanted to watch a bunch of documentaries because you really learn some really cool things and see some cool things when you watch stuff like that.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, I was very impressed.
And just to wrap up the show, Rick, again, the Golden State Warriors make a trade for Dennis Schröder. 6'1", 175. The height doesn't impress me. Look, he's putting up good numbers this year. Again, 18.4 points per game. He's averaging 33.6 minutes per game. I don't know if he's going to get that with the Warriors, but he's shooting 38.7% from deep. Turnovers, he is averaging 2.6 turnovers per game. I don't like seeing that. But again, I like the deal. It's a solid move. It just does not move the needle all that much for me because I want championships. For me, like, this is not enough. If this is part one of like a 2-part plan, now we're talking. But it's a good move. It's just not enough in my book. Rick, your final thoughts, sir, on Schröder, and we'll give some love to all your products that you endorse as well, sir. But your final thoughts first on the Dennis Schröder trade.
Well, I mean, basically, if I were to talk about it, I could just repeat what you just said. I mean, I agree 100% with you. I really do. I mean, I don't know why the trade was made. I was just, again, I'm waiting and hoping to find out sometime. It's like we talked about with KD. Why did they make the trade? What was the reason for making this trade? I just like to know. That's all.
Yeah. And my guess is the answer is going to be to replace D'Anthony Melton. I imagine that's the simple answer, is to replace a player that they were counting on. And again, Dennis Schröder to me is a different guy than D'Anthony Melton, but it's an upgrade on the roster, but it's just 6'1". The Don Nelson trauma is just coming back to me, all the small ball, and I want some size, Rick. I want some big dudes out there to make Steph's life easier.
I don't know if I'm going to be back on with you before the holidays, and if that's the case, I certainly wish everybody a blessed holiday season, Merry Christmas. All the Jewish holidays that are coming up.
Well, Rick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but because the holidays are coming up, and you're right, if we don't see you again, Rick, Merry Christmas. I'm sure we'll talk, but or message, but Merry early Christmas and Happy Holidays to you and your family. And because it's the holidays, there's still time for people to purchase gifts that you can discuss right now, correct? Like Medusa Leaf, I'm sure they have items that.
Oh yeah, they get a nice discount on those. Medusa Leaf, if you're into the cannabinoid world, which I am, I'm just amazing what it's done. Forget the ibuprofen and stuff. You can use this for inflammation, what have you. Medusa Leaf, MEDICILEF is one of the places that you can go to. You can see the code that's down there. It's RB24. And you'll get a nice discount on any of the products there on that site. And then another one is in the same vein is allomd.com with the RB24 is the code, allomd.com. And that's Ultra Repair X is the name of the product there, Ultra Repair X. And then finally, Go Sleeves, okay, GOSLEEVES.com. And I think it's all small letters, but you'll get on, I'm sure. RB24 for any of the products there. Unbelievable compression sleeves for knees. I never play pickleball without mine. My calves, my son wore them when he was playing in the Olympics and basketball as well. We've got a lot of football players actually in the Bay Area are actually using them, and runners are going nuts over. So check it out, GoSleeves.com, RB24, and save yourself a few bucks and some products that for me work. I hope that they work for you as well as they've worked for me.
And are you still on Cameo, by the way? Because something tells me like you are.
Yes.
Promote that, please. And anything else that's going on.
Yeah, you can go to Cameo. There's an app that they have online, and you can have opportunities to get various people who are there to have a message for a happy birthday, anniversary, whatever it may be,
holidays,
graduation, holidays, whatever it is, and you can get something. And give a nice voice message, a special surprise to people, and it's there and available on Cameo.
Beautiful stuff. And Rick, thank you, sir. Thank you very much as always for
always enjoying the time.
Real quick before we go, we almost tried to talk about this. The documentary, the 1975 Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, well, still we don't know what it's going to be. Going to air. We got to get somebody there to do the promotions and get involved with it. So they're working on that. Hopefully that's going to happen. I'm praying that we could do it at the end of February, which I think is the perfect time because nothing's really going on of any significance in sports. And that way it can get the attention that it deserves in the Bay Area. And I'm praying that if we do this, that Joe Lakeup and Peter Guber would be nice enough to want to have the premiere at the Chase Center. I think that would be really, really cool and really fitting, and to have a chance to do something like that.
Absolutely.
If they're not willing to do it, then the other thing that would be cool as heck was to go and do it over the arena in Oakland where we actually were playing at the time. That would be kind of a cool thing to do.
That would be fascinating. Oh,
that would be a great way to utilize the facility there and to have the because I have so many memories from that place. That would be kind of cool. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Whatever's meant to be, everything in life happens for a reason, folks. Remember that. So if something bad happens to you, get over it and move on with your life.
If only it were that easy, Rick. But I feel
it makes you sad, cry. But you got to move on. I mean, you can't change what already happened.
You're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. And Rick, I just want for people to be reminded of that 75 team that you were the finals MVP of. It was historic. It was, to this day, one of the greatest, maybe the greatest upset in professional sports history. And I really hope this documentary that will acknowledge and celebrate the 50th anniversary. Rick, you always talk about how fast time flies. I remember when the 40th anniversary was being discussed, and then Stephen Curry led the Warriors to the first of the 4 championships of this current dynasty. It's incredible, but I do hope that documentary is released and we have parties.
I appreciate your comments, but the thing is, it's the greatest. I think it's the greatest sports upset in the history of the top 4 American sports in the finals of the sport. There's been some other amazing things, but in the finals, nobody was as big an underdog as we were. Not even thought of at all. We get all the way to the finals, and what happens? They say it's the biggest mismatch in the history of the NBA finals is going to be a sweep. Well, again, they got one part right, the sweep part right. They just got the wrong team.
And you swept them. I just did the whole thing. I can't wait. I hope this thing is released soon, and I hope it's done this year. And I hope that we have a documentary acknowledging your championship team, and then it capitulates with the Warriors winning a 5th championship in June. But we got a long way to go. The Warriors,
that would be great. The 5th championship in 2025. There you go.
It all just fits, right? There's a symmetry there. And regardless, Rick, you are a legend, sir, and you never get the attention you deserve. I will say that. So thank you for coming on this program. As always,
I enjoy it. You guys,
thank you, sir. I enjoy your company always. And thanks to the audience. Thanks to everyone. Happy holidays, Rick. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Oh,